Sculptured nail, 20 minutes. You have 2 minutes to set up the supplies for the sculptured nail section of the examination. Please do not begin any procedures until the verbal instructions have been read and you are instructed to begin. Turn the hand towards the examiner to indicate you have finished. These instructions will be repeated. You may begin. Sanitize my hands. Place the doll where the examiner tells you. Remove all of these towels, soiled linen, trash from the leftover facial, implements to be disinfected from the leftover facial, soiled linen. Sanitize your hands. And now we will disinfect our station. Sanitize your gloves. Wipe your station down, edges as well. Wipe your stool down. Wipe your cup down. Okay. Trash. Remove your gloves. Sanitize your hands. Go into your bag. Remove your facial bag. Excuse me, your nail bag. Zip bag shut. Take out your hand. Sanitize your hands. Trash. Sanitize your hands. Now you will be sitting for this, so I'm going to grab a chair real quick. You'll use your stool. Then you'll step back and wait for further instruction. After setting up, the proctor will read, "You will sculpt a nail on the 4th finger." Listen to which finger they're going to be indicating that you use. Typically, it's the index finger. You must use a manufacturer's sealed, odorless product. You will be expected to follow all client protection, safety, and infection control procedures. You have 20 minutes to complete this section. You'll be informed when you have 10 minutes remaining. Turn the hand towards the examiner to indicate you have finished. The instructions will be repeated. You may begin. Sanitize my hands. Have a seat. Turn your hand around. So you'll turn your hand around and face you. First thing, you're going to sanitize your hands and you're going to sanitize your client's hands. Okay, so be sure you spray it and clean her hands off. You're going to buff only with this file in one direction. You don't want to do any of this seesawing. It may damage the nail. trash. You're going to use your nail brush here, and you will brush off any excess dust from filing. Now we're going to place the dehydrator on. Hold it over your paper towel, your drips, close your dehydrator, place it in your implements to be disinfected, carefully, avoiding the skin, use the dehydrator, and then it's trash. Next, you're going to place your form. The form will stick better to the finger if before you use it, before state board, you prepare it by placing some alcohol or nail polish remover on the skin area, or the plastic, I should say. Okay, so the lines are the guides. So on here, so I try to line that up as evenly as possible so that when I'm creating the nail, I have a guide. Okay? I'm holding this up so that it's close and tucked under before I go to bend it. And I'm holding it the whole time. Okay, next we put on the nail primer. And again, you want to avoid the cuticle. Okay, so now your primer can go into implements to be disinfected. Next, we're going to, while that's drying, we're going to go ahead and fill or dampen dishes. So I prefer to fill mine over the trash or over the paper towel because it's hard to do it without spilling. So I'm just going to hold this over and then put some in here. Okay. Now I would keep this on your station in case for some reason you need more, it spills or whatever. Okay, when you open this, it will be sealed. You'll take your orange wood stick and poke it to open it. Then you can hold it over the trash again and fill the monomer. And again, I would leave this out. Okay. All right, so the next step is to start creating the nail. Now you want to go past the tip. Okay, it doesn't have to be extended very far past the tip. It just needs to be so that they can see that you have created a tip. Okay. So it's really important to keep your brush very clean. The way you're going to keep it clean is, first of all, you're going to place it in here. Keep a very light touch. You're not going to be dipping this and getting it extremely wet. So I am just going to lightly touch it to the top, which you can see right here. Light. I'm not sticking it in very far. Once I've done that, then I'm actually going to dab it here. Now mine's a little stiff, so I will dampen it in here just to loosen it up. Okay. Okay, so now that I have made it so that it is flexible, I'll take a small amount, make sure that my tip is nice and pointed. Now I'm going to place this in the powder, and I'm holding it here. Notice that I'm not dragging it around. Notice that I'm not dipping it in very far into the powder. I'm just utilizing that tip. I'm building a nice ball. Okay. If it's too wet, it's going to be really hard to control. So there's my first tip. My first ball, excuse me. Now here we're having an issue with this because I did not put anything on that hand, on that plastic, to get this to hold. Now, I like to start down towards the cuticle first. So I'm pushing, I'm patting. This is more of a pushing and patting. Now, see my brush is getting full of stuff? All I'm going to do is, you always want to wipe the stuff off first, then dip it, wipe it again, and then dip it. Okay, so it's not like watercoloring. Okay, now as this sets up, now I can start moving this and pushing it towards the cuticle without touching the cuticle. Okay, so that's going to be my first application. Again, I'm going to wipe first, dip, clean it off, a nice round tip to it, dip it, and remove some of that moisture. Because again, you don't, it's better to be more on the dry side than on the wet side. You're going to have a lot more control and it's not going to run away. Okay, so again, I'm dipping it. Very light touch. Kind of swirling it around. Once I get a nice round little ball, then I can drag it forward. Yes, that's what you want. Oop, that's what you want. Okay, that might be a little too wet, and that's why that happened. Okay, so there we go. And I'm going to bring it over here. Place this here. Now I'm working my way out to start to build the tip. Just patting it gently. Checking that consistency, making sure that it's not too thick. Start to build that edge out. Now again, I'm having issues with this, so I'm just going to readjust it. And now I'm going to wipe that excess stuff off, clean the excess stuff off, make sure it's relatively dry, get a nice tip going on here, and continue on. I may put just a smidge here of some of the monomer. And now I'm going to continue smoothing this out. Now what they're going to be looking for now is when I kind of smooth it. Now again, my touch is so incredibly light. You have to have a very light hand when you're creating acrylic nails. And you want to make sure that here on the edge, where that natural nail is, right there, make sure you have enough product right there so that when you shape it, you are not cutting into the nail and making a real thin spot. The other thing I want to point out is, notice I'm not using the same spot. I'm finding a clean part of the towel every time I use the brush. Now I'm going to take just a little bit more to build up the sides. Over this side I can see is a little bit dipped in right there, and that's that area I was talking about in regards to making sure that you have enough acrylic there. Okay, so a little bit here, finding a nice clean section, rounding my tip, making sure there is not too much moisture in there. You can see how much moisture comes off. Okay, so now let's go ahead and build. Especially when you're working on the sides of the nail, doing this portion of it, you want to make sure it's not too wet, because then it starts running and it's not pretty. Okay, so let me get this guy back where I want it and get working on this. Pat it, and as I push it over, you can see here where I want it to be filled in, right into there. Okay, now I can see that it's a little bit wet. I'm going to get a new towel, wipe first, get the stuff off, clean it. Remember, you've got 20 minutes for this, so it's not like you have to rush. Okay, you can see mine ran right there. Not a problem. Holding your form. Now, I'm just going to push this because it's still movable. See that? There we go. Okay, so I think that's going to be okay. Building that up. Okay, so I'm going to wipe this off again, and I'm going to set this down so I can take a peek at the shape. By looking at it this way, okay, and looking at it this way, because I want to make sure there aren't any huge like dips or ridges. And I do see a dip right there, so I'm going to go ahead and work that a little bit. And I'm just going to use a little bit of that monomer. And now is when I'm going to smooth this to help blend it together. Alrighty, that looks pretty good. Okay, so while this sets up, I'm going to do one last wiping to get everything out as best possible. Now this, when you're wiping it, you can put it in there deeper. Okay. Now this will be going into the trash, so you may not need to take that much time. So I'm going to go ahead and place this in the trash. Next thing I will be doing is disposing of these. Now you can place powder that absorb. I have a little more liquid than I do powder, so holding this over and turning this over. So this goes in the trash and this goes in the trash, okay? Okay, so while that's setting up, I'll go ahead and sanitize my hands again. See how this feels. Still very wet. Okay, this room is very cool right now, so we're just gonna hang out here for a minute and wait for that. You can take these and put them in your implements to be disinfected. You're not going to need your form anymore. You can put that away. This I like to hold on to because once I'm finished forming the nail, the acrylic, then I'll brush it off to keep it nice and clean. Okay, it's getting there. A little sticky. See, when I place this on here, it makes a little hollow noise, but I still feel some stickiness. Okay, so I'm just gonna sit here and let that do its thing. Hopefully when you go to board, it's not going to be this cold in the room. So when you're filing, okay, I'm going to remove the form. Trash. Okay. That first layer, you want to use the darkest part, the roughest part of your file. Now on the acrylic nail, you can go back and forth, okay? And you need to remove the rubbery top layer. And you can see how it starts to rubber up. And that's what you want to see. See that? That's just that plastic top layer. And you can go back and forth, okay? Because we're not working on the natural nail. Now that I'm pretty sure that it's nice and dry, I'm going to get in there and really go. My file is kind of gunked up, so I'm just going to turn that around. I can use this brush to get some of this stuff off, get it out of the way. And you'll know you have it off because it won't have this gummy feel to it. There. My file is not getting hung up, it's not balling up with plastic. So it's definitely coming off. Okay, I'm just going to check the thickness of it. Okay, I think that's going to be fine. So what I'm checking is the thickness, if it's straight, if it's not all lumpy on the top. So, and hang on to your files, don't toss them because you may need to go back to a different grit. Okay, so I'm going to go up to the next grit. So I say up to the next because the higher the number on files, the softer the grit is, which is kind of opposite thinking, but Okay, I'll brush that off. And next up is your darker pink of the two pinks. And the file that comes in your stapler kit, it's probably going to be gray, and it's probably going to be all in one instead of separate ones, except for the emery board. So just remember to go from the darkest to the lightest, and that's the order. So, and be sure that you never use the acrylic files when you're removing initially the shine off of the, now I'm going to switch over off of the natural nail plate, okay? The grit is too high. Okay, so now feel it, see how it feels. Look at it, see if it's even. Looks good. Looks good. Because they will be checking to make sure that it is even, that it's straight, which I can see mine needs to be. It's more square here, right here, and it's more rounded here. So I'm just gonna fix that. But my connection from all the different points are fine. There's no big ridges there. So all I want to do now is just fix this corner. There. Okay. Now, when you turn the hand back around, you want to make sure that the finger is replaced and it's straight. Because if the finger's kind of cockeyed, then it's going to possibly make the nail look even more crowded and crooked. Okay, so I'm going to call that done. And I'm going to brush this off. Okay. I'm going to take my hand sanitizer only because I put my dehydrator away. And if you still have your dehydrator out, you can use that. But I'm just going to sanitize this area because that helps to shine it up a little bit and removes any debris. All right, now I'll turn her back around, making sure that my finger is nice and straight, that it's not bent out like this, okay? So get it back to normal. I'm gonna sanitize my hands, okay? And wait for her to come and look at the nail. And that's it.